in analyzing your own motivations in this book. It is about you're trying to understand and assess yourself. What is psychology giving you? What is it giving you?
I don't know. I was always drawn to it. I think if it had been a subject at school, that's what I would have gone for. But I didn't come from an academic background. I don't think I even knew what psychology was. But the extraordinary thing is I can remember in great detail some television shows I saw when I was about 16, BBC documentaries about Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments, if you know about them, or Solomon Ash's experiments about how he got people to agree with people who were giving ridiculous answers, the force of conventional behavior on us. And I remember in particular a documentary where a hypnotist hypnotized a man and said to the man, when you come back into the room, you will go over to the vase of flowers, take the flowers out of the vase and pour the water in the vase onto the carpet. And when the man did that, and the psychiatrist said to him, "Why did you do that?" He just looked blank for a moment, and then he said, "Well, I thought I saw some smoke coming up from the carpet. I thought maybe someone had dropped a cigarette in, so I just poured the water on it." And I was fascinated that this man had made this thing up, this story up. It was nothing to do with the truth, and yet a few seconds later he clearly believed that it was. And I saw what's known as rationalisation, right? And it stunned me. I was fascinated by it. But of course there was no way of studying that sort of thing at school, so I had to wait for about 25 years in order to write a couple of books with a therapist whose I had attended his sessions when my first.
That's how you met.
Yes, when my first marriage was in trouble. I went into therapy for the first time with a very British attitude about, oh God, I hope we're not going to talk about feelings and things like that. and it was an extraordinary positive experience for me, and I realized that this guy, Robin Skinner, knew more about human beings than anyone that I'd ever met. But you see, just looking at it all struck me. The nice thing about getting very old, because I'm 75, I am 3/4 of a fucking century old. Can you think of 3/4? This was about a week ago. I woke up 75. But the nice thing is, first of all, I'll be dead soon, so I don't have to worry about global warming or any of that stuff. It's not going to affect me. And the other thing is that you begin to realize that nothing really matters very much, right? Yeah, you just realize that, first realization is that almost nobody knows what they're talking about. You'd agree, I suspect.
Yeah, I do. Including me.
Tell me more. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about either. But I'm pretty sure that they don't know what they're talking about. And there's a wonderful bit of research. I'm a phony professor at Cornell. And there's a guy there called David Dunning. He's a social psychologist. And David has always been fascinated by how good people are at knowing how good they are at things, at what he calls self-assessment. And what he's discovered, quite, by research, is that in order to know how good you are at something, requires almost exactly the same aptitudes as it does to be good at that thing in the first place. You see, so a really good tennis player kind of knows exactly where they are in the rankings. They know that they could be a little bit better, but they're better than this guy. So they know this kind of thing. And the funny thing about this is it means that if you are absolutely hopeless at something, then, right, you've seen it already, right? It means that you lack exactly the attitudes that you need to know that you are absolutely no good at it. And this explains most of what goes on in the world. It's not that people have no idea what they're doing, it's that they have no idea that they have no idea what they're doing. And this gives them great confidence. So you begin to realize that it's never going to work. The world is a complete mess. Everyone is far too egotistical. The rich are much too ruthless about maintaining their power and money, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Hence comedy.
Hence comedy. We can laugh about it because it's ridiculous, and we can enjoy it and not take it seriously. And I think that was what Python was about. It was not taking things seriously. When you see these world leaders, I mean, I remember meeting Harold Wilson, our Prime Minister. This is 30 years ago. And I was chatting to this guy who'd been Prime Minister of my country for about 5 years, and he was telling me about the history of the Brighton Labour Party in 1893. And I thought, why is he telling me this? And he went on and on telling me in great detail, and I suddenly thought, oh my God, he's showing me what a good memory he's got. And I thought, isn't that sad? This man, who is the #1 guy in the UK, he is the Prime Minister, and he meets some scruffy comedian, and he has to impress the comedian with how good his memory is. And then I met John Major, who's very nice, but I met him, and because I've taught for a couple of years, I realized after about 10 seconds that this guy could not keep a classroom of children in order. The only thing wrong with him was that he was running the country, but he was... See, you just look around, and I had lunch with Edward Heath, who was Prime Minister. You remember in the 70s?
Why were you having lunch with all these prime ministers?
Well, just because if you've been around as long as I have, somebody's asked you to something. I've had lunch with the Queen and all that kind of thing, but it was a completely fatuous lunch. I mean, she was terribly nice and polite to everyone, and we learned absolutely nothing because everyone in the presence of the Queen is very careful what they say. So nobody says anything interesting, and I just think how dull it must be for her.
Yeah.
She meets these subjects, and they all sort of sit there being reverent and so forth. It must be a complete bore for the poor woman.